Imagine a world where loyalty is currency, and danger is a constant companion. This is the realm of organized crime, where J. Malkoun reigned supreme. Born in Melbourne in 1971, Malkoun's rise from street thug to international crime figure is the stuff of legend. But on March 1st, 2019, in a quiet Athens suburb, his past caught up with him.
Former bikie boss has been seriously injured in a car bomb in Greece, the blast sending smoke high over Athens. Ahmad Malkoun was inside his Mercedes when it burst into flames in what local police say was a targeted attack.
A bomb ripped through Malkoun's Mercedes, scattering debris over 150 meters. 4 other cars erupted in flames. At the epicenter, a man who should have died but didn't.
It's really strange that I survived that. I agree. Everyone says the same thing. But I did.
Malkoun, ex-president of the feared Comancheros motorcycle gang, had fled 14,500 kilometers from Australia. Why? The answer lies in a global criminal network worth $426 billion annually. This is a tale of ambition, betrayal, and impossible survival. Dive into the world of J. Malkoun, the man who stared death in the face and didn't blink. J. Malkoun's story begins in the Housing Commission flats of Reservoir, a tough suburb in Melbourne, Victoria.
You know, I grew up in the Housing Commission in Reservoir.
Arriving in Australia in 1965 at the tender age of 2.5, young Jay was thrust into a world vastly different from his Lebanese origins.
Oh man, J. Malkoun, Lebanese, born in Lebanon, came out to Australia in 1965 as a 2.5-year-old and grew up in Melbourne, Victoria.
The neighborhood was a melting pot of cultures, with Irish, English, Italian, Greek, and Arab families, all struggling to make ends meet in their adopted country.
I wasn't a smart kid, I wasn't stupid, but I just couldn't get my head around the language, reading and spelling. And so I always struggled at school, but you know, this is the thing, right? I still went to every class. Even in year 10 when I couldn't read very well, I still attended every class and gave it a good crack.
Life in Reservoir was far from easy. Discrimination was rampant, and young Jay quickly learned that survival often meant fighting his way home.
Reservoir. I grew up in Housing Commission. So all my neighbours were all predominantly foreigners. We all struggled. None of us had anything. All the parents worked, so the kids were left alone to do their own thing. And that was normal for all of us. Most families had 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 kids, and we all banged it on. We all did our best. It was a pretty rough environment, but it wasn't a deadly environment. The Pentridge was the local prison, which was 2 suburbs away, was full of kids from my area and the neighbouring areas. We were all the villains, unfortunately. But that was the environment we grew up in. When you have nothing and you want something, you do what you got to do to get it. Unfortunately, sometimes that tinkers on breaking the law. You step into the dark side. When I was growing up, all the kids were tough. Some were tougher than others and some were more capable than others. But for the most part, all the kids were pretty resilient and tough. So growing up back then, I had to fight to get home some days, or avoid.
Despite the challenges of the streets, Malkoun's family life was anchored in tradition and faith. Every night the family would gather for an hour of prayer, a practice that instilled in Jay a sense of discipline that would serve him well in the years to come.
I grew up in a very religious Christian household. We had mass every night for an hour. My parents are really devoted to God. And it trickled down to us a little bit, but not so much because I couldn't really speak the language.
From an early age, Malkoun was drawn to martial arts. Inspired by the likes of Bruce Lee, he began training in Taekwondo and Kung Fu at just 5 years old.
I started off with Taekwondo, Kung Fu, but I really took to boxing. I just really liked the fact that a quick hook would just put someone to sleep.
These skills would prove invaluable as he navigated the rough and tumble world of Melbourne streets.
I was never a ring boxer. But I enjoyed fighting on the street.
As a teenager, Malkoun found himself part of the Tigers, a group of Lebanese boys who banded together in response to the discrimination they faced. The city square became their battleground, where they would engage in fights with rival groups. For Malkoun, this was more than just teenage rebellion. It was a crucible in which he was forged, learning lessons about loyalty, strength, and survival that would shape his future. As Malkoun entered adulthood, he quickly realized that his fighting skills could be put to profitable use. At 18, he landed a job working security at the Moreland Hotel, marking the beginning of a career that would see him rise rapidly through the ranks of Melbourne's nightclub scene.
What clubs were you working at, Jay?
I started at the Moreland Hotel at 18, and we did the Albion Charles in Northcote, and then we did the Albion in Carlton, and they were a lot of fun.
Malkoun's ascent was nothing short of meteoric.
Australia is a very lucrative, lucky country. If you have tenacity and you're willing, you can make money here. You can make very good money here. Unfortunately for me, I've got a great network of loyal friends, and they gave me a leg up, and I got on my feet very, very quickly.
By the time he was 21, he owned his first street, Baden Drive, which he developed within 9 months.
What street did you have?
It was Baden Drive. I developed it. So then I developed it within 9 months and ended up with the whole street road, less the blocks that I had sold. That's not bad at 21.
At 22, he acquired his first nightclub, followed by a second at 23. His success in the security and nightclub business was fueled by a potent combination of natural charisma, street smarts, and an unwavering willingness to do whatever it took to get ahead.
By the time I was 21, I owned my own street. By the time I was 20, I owned 60 acres of land. 21, I owned my own street. 22, nightclub. 23, second nightclub.
But the nightclub scene was just a stepping stone for the ambitious Malkoun. His drive for more led him to Hong Kong, where he continued his fighting career and first encountered the world of drug trafficking.
I was fighting in Hong Kong, so I progressed to, I ventured overseas and fell into the drugs. And I was very ambitious, very driven. I just wanted more. Then I wanted more of more, as you do. And then I had a crack at that, made some money.
The allure of easy money and the thrill of danger proved irresistible to the young man from Reservoir. At 22, Malkoun's ambitions took him to Perth. Together with his brothers, he pooled their resources to buy a nightclub in Northbridge for around 75,000 to 85,000 Australian dollars.
And then when I was about 22, I think, or 23, I moved to Perth. Took a little bit of cash, bought a nightclub.
The venture was a success, featuring a world-class DJ with 4 turntables who had competed in world competitions. The club drew crowds night after night, solidifying Malkoun's reputation as a savvy businessman. However, success came at a price. Malkoun's involvement in the drug trade, which he had tried to leave behind in Melbourne, was about to catch up with him. In 1987, a former associate turned informant, setting in motion a series of events that would change Malkoun's life forever.
When did your encounters with the police start?
87. What happened was, the guy that I got the drugs for, he got arrested, he got caught with an ounce. So he decided that it's better for him to give evidence against everyone he knows and avoid doing a couple of years jail than doing his jail. So when he told
So he lagged Joe?
He lagged everybody. When he told the police, they didn't believe him because I didn't exist in the system, right? So he had to go and buy his own recording device and record people before they would take on the case.
In 1988, Malkoun's world came crashing down around him. Caught in a police operation dubbed Operation Lucky, he found himself facing serious drug charges.
Then they called it Operation Lucky.
Simultaneous raids in Perth and Melbourne resulted in the arrest of 8 men. Police seized high-grade heroin with a street value of $9 million, as well as a collection of guns and ammunition.
The reason you were in jail for heroin trafficking.
Yep.
You write in the book that you believe that the charges were trumped up, that yes, you were doing it, but no way did you have 5 kilos of heroin.
For a start, back in those days, it wasn't kilos, it was pounds. They took a pound out of the car and put it in the safe.
In Melbourne, 8 homes were the target of drug squad police, while in Perth, a massive stakeout centred on this nightclub in William Street. Its alleged heroin and a loaded pistol were found inside a safe, while more of the drug was taken from a car parked nearby.
It was mine, no question.
Despite initially believing he could beat the charges, Malkoun made the fateful decision to plead guilty alongside his brother. The decision was born out of a desire to protect his sibling, who was facing even more serious charges.
My brother was They had the machine guns, he was doing transactions, they recorded everything.
Malkoun accepted a plea deal, expecting to receive an 8-year sentence with 5 years to serve.
So the prosecutor offered, or my lawyer, who turned on me, said, if you plead guilty with your brother, we'll give you 8 years and you'll do 5. I said, yeah, he'll take that deal, but I'm going to fight it. They got a call on me. And I said, no, if you don't take the deal, they won't offer it to him. It won't be extended to him. This is only if you plead guilty.
The reality, however, was much harsher. The judge handed down a sentence of 18 years with a 16-year minimum, a devastating blow that would see Malkoun spend the next decade behind bars.
So we pleaded guilty to limited offences with a statement of facts, which was supposed to protect us to make sure we got the right sentence. As soon as we pleaded guilty, my barrister took off and never saw her again. She didn't come to sentencing. She f***ed off on us. It was a setup. And I got 18 with a 16. They couldn't convict me. They knew that, so they tricked me. They hung my brother in front as a carrot.
Malkoun and his brother were sent to Pentridge Prison, one of Australia's most notorious correctional facilities.
I did jail in the primitive jail. I did it all in Pentridge, except for the last little bit because Pentridge closed down.
At its peak, Pentridge housed around 3,000 prisoners, making it a powder keg of tension and violence. The brothers quickly gained a reputation as troublemakers, making it difficult for authorities to house them elsewhere. Life in Pentridge was harsh, but Malkoun adapted with the same tenacity that had served him on the streets. Behind bars, Malkoun and his brother carved out their own niche. They wore their own clothes, cooked their own food, and maintained a clear line between themselves and the prison authorities. This defiant attitude often led to conflicts with guards and other prisoners, but it also earned them a measure of respect in the harsh world of Pentridge.
But we did our own job. We wore our own clothes, cooked our own food, and there was no grey with us. You're a fucking dog screw, and we're a convict. Fuck off. Lock my door and open my door. And that's how it was for my brother and I. Other prisoners do their jails a little bit different. They want to befriend the screws, talk a bit of fucking shit. We don't play those games, bro. We know it was very definitive. So we had a reputation in jail. You know, we smacked a few screws, turned it on a little bit, punched on, did a bit of damage, you know what I'm talking about.
During his time in prison, Malkoun encountered some of Australia's most notorious criminals, including Mark Chopper Reed and Keith KK4 Fora. These experiences, while challenging, helped shape Malkoun's understanding of the criminal world and his place within it. It was a decade-long education in the School of Hard Knocks, one that would profoundly influence the man Malkoun would become upon his release. In January or February of 1998, after serving 10 years, Malkoun walked out of prison a free man. Far from being broken by his experience, he emerged more determined than ever to succeed. With the tenacity that had become his trademark, Malkoun set about rebuilding his life from the ground up. Fortune smiled on Malkoun almost immediately. Within weeks of his release, he discovered he had access to funds from a dormant company, providing him with the capital he needed to start anew. This initial windfall of nearly 200,000 Australian dollars, combined with support from his family, gave Malkoun a foundation on which to build his comeback.
When I got out, I was so lucky. There's a company, I forget the name of it, they locate dormant companies that have assets in them that just haven't been they've been dormant for years. This company I had was dormant for 10 years. I didn't even know it existed. I thought the prosecutors took it. I got a call within weeks of getting out saying, "Oh, well, you know, you're the director of this company." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, there's $180,000 in the account. Would you like us to retrieve it for you?" Yeah. I had money as soon as I got out, bro. I had a small money instantly for my family. Within weeks, I had like nearly 200 grand.
Malkoun wasted no time in getting back into business. He invested $80,000 in a tour featuring Andrea Bocelli, Muddy the conductor, and Tetzer Alaskala, the Italian ballet. This venture turned into a few $100,000 in profit.
So from there, another friend of mine in Perth called Charlie Giglia, him and Jack Regal had secured the tour of Andrea Bocelli, Mutti the conductor, and Tetzer Alaskala, the Italian ballet, to tour Australia. But before they would commit to a contract, the management team wanted to come and visit the hotels and the venues because Andre's blind. And they needed 80 grand. They said, "Will you tip in the 80 grand?" I said, "Yeah, I own a third of the concert, but the tour, but there was no guarantee. So there was a risk they still weren't going to sign." Well, I trusted Charlie and I gave him the 80 grand and that turned into a few $100,000.
This success was followed by a series of other business ventures, from restaurants to clubs, with Malkoun always on the lookout for the next big opportunity. However, Malkoun's past associations were never far behind. In 2009, he made a significant move that would once again thrust him into the spotlight of Australia's criminal underworld. Malkoun became the president of the Comancheros Victorian chapter, one of the country's most notorious outlaw motorcycle clubs.
Why did you make the decision to join the Comancheros?
Well, you know, it was canvassed for a while. My mate Adam took on the job, and him and his two offsiders. I spoke to my family, my wife being my wife, and some close friends, and they go, "Yeah, man, you crazy? Do it." It was a little bit embarrassing in the beginning. I was a bit shy about the whole wearing a vest thing, but I took to it, and it was good. It was a lot of fun.
You were the head of the Victorian Comancheros a few weeks after joining the Comancheros.
I was sergeant straight away, which is highly unusual. Usually you would go through a period of nomination and you gradually climb through the ranks. But they made me sergeant straight away, and soon the first day on the job they had a big problem with the Finks, which was sorted out, and that's what happened. So I became president within like a week, 2 weeks.
This position put him at the helm of an organization with a fearsome reputation, further cementing his status as a major player in Melbourne's criminal landscape. Despite his return to the world of outlaw motorcycle clubs, Malkoun continued to pursue legitimate business interests. It was in the mining industry that he found his most lucrative niche. For a decade, he worked as a consultant, leveraging his connections and street smarts to navigate the complex world of mining deals.
You've done a lot of consulting in that sort of field?
Look, really what happened was I was looking after a couple of fellas that had some issues.
Yep.
They were getting bullied. We saw that. It wasn't a big deal. You could have handled it.
Yeah.
Right? But because they were public companies, when they wanted to see me, they would always refer to me as the consultant over the phone. "Can you just get the consultant to give me a call?" Or,
Yep.
and when I'd invoice them, it'd be consulting as requested. So that was only a working title, but the publishers liked it, so it stuck.
Wow.
But that's where it originated from.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And how long was you sort of doing that for with the mining people?
10 years.
Yep.
10 years was a good little journey, good
Yep.
ride, a lot of money.
This new career took him far beyond the streets of Melbourne, with Malkoun working out of Dubai and brokering deals across Africa and Europe. One of his most surprising successes came from an unexpected source. A $400,000 donation to a charity in Somalia led to a $300 million deal for oil and mineral rights, showcasing Malkoun's knack for turning even the most unlikely situations to his advantage. His brother invested $20 million through one of his companies into Somalia, and they had a compound there, visiting regularly. Throughout this period, Malkoun straddled two worlds, the legitimate business realm and the shadowy underworld of outlaw motorcycle clubs. This dual existence would continue to shape his life and ultimately lead to the dramatic events that would unfold in Greece. Despite his success in legitimate business, Malkoun's past was never far behind. On May 1st, 2019, while living in Greece, his world quite literally exploded. As Malkoun left a gym in the affluent Athens suburb of Glyfada, a bomb detonated in his car.
Notorious Comanchero Ahmed J. Malkoun was badly injured in the targeted attack as he left an Athens gym.
The explosion was devastating, scattering debris over 150 meters and engulfing 4 other vehicles in flames.
Malkoun had just left the gym here in the suburb of Glyfada. He came here at the same time every day. The explosion set 4 other cars on fire. Luckily, no one else was injured.
Against all odds, Malkoun survived, pulled from the wreckage by brave bystanders who risked their own lives to save him.
Police believe the explosive was dynamite.
The thing was blown the up. You could barely see. Fortunately for me, the door was open. I think a lot of the energy was expelled through the door. That may have been what saved me.
Badly burnt and bloodied, the exiled bikie was pulled from the car and taken to hospital.
My nose was bleeding, my ears were bleeding. I couldn't see clearly, but I could see. I thought for sure there's going to be a shooter. You can't leave this job half done. So my fear was, how am I going to survive the shooter? I've already survived the bomb. I knew I was intact. My legs were a mess. My adrenaline was pumping. I dragged myself out looking for a shooter, mate.
And then you see someone.
I see someone coming towards me. I thought, this is it. I'm f***ed. Like, what am I going to do? Fall left or fall right? That's all I can do. Turns out he wasn't a shooter, and he started dragging me to the road. And another guy came up, and I pulled him back thinking that might have been a shooter. And I tried to warn him because he's going to get shot as well. He was also panicked. But it wasn't a shooter, and they put me out in the middle of the road, literally in front of the car. I don't know why they did that, but I said, listen, take me down a bit further or put me on the footpath. Like, I couldn't walk, I was f***ed. So they just moved me a little bit further, then started directing traffic. But I realised, like, within 4 or 5 minutes, there was a lot of people around that it's too late for a shooter. So I stopped thinking about that and started thinking about who the blew me up and how we're going to get on with it.
The attack sent shockwaves through both the criminal underworld and law enforcement agencies. Questions swirled about who had targeted Malkoun and why. Was it retribution for past deeds, or a warning related to his current activities? The bombing remains a mystery, a violent punctuation mark in Malkoun's already eventful life. Today, at the age of 61, J. Malkoun stands as a testament to resilience and reinvention. His life story, chronicled in his book The Consultant, offers a rare glimpse into the world of organized crime and the possibility of redemption. Reflecting on his journey, Malkoun is philosophical.
G'day, I'm J. Malkoun at Abbey's in York Street, famous bookstore. This is my book, it's a story about my life. Interesting read, a bit of incarceration, a bit of underground, a bit of biking world, a bit of fun. Hope you enjoy it.
Jay,
What's going on?
your book is a memoir of a former bikie, heroin trafficker and underworld fixer. Most people would say that you're a bad man.
Yeah, they're on point.
He advises others to think carefully before embarking on a life of crime, emphasizing the toll it takes not just on the individual, but on their family as well. It's a hard-earned wisdom, born from decades of living on the edge.
It's called The Consultant, and it's just a bit of a story about, my checkered past. We dive into a few things, a few areas that you might find enjoyable, interesting. Some might find it boring.
Despite the violence and danger that have marked his life, Malkoun maintains a positive outlook. He believes in the power of ambition and hard work, insisting that in countries like Australia and New Zealand, anyone can achieve success if they're willing to put in the effort.
Australia and New Zealand are lucky countries. You can be whoever you want to be. If you just facilitate that in your head, bro.
J. Malkoun's story is far from over. The man who rose from the Housing Commission flats of Reservoir to become a feared underworld figure who survived prison and assassination attempts continues to adapt and thrive. From the rough streets of Melbourne to the sun-drenched shores of Greece, Malkoun's life reads like a crime thriller come to life. But what became of the man who survived the unsurvivable? The truth is, no one knows for sure. Some say he's living quietly in some far-flung corner of the world, having finally decided to cash out and enjoy his ill-gotten gains. Others insist he's still in the game, pulling strings from the shadows, his influence as strong as ever. What we do know is this: J. Malkoun's story is far from over. A man like that doesn't simply fade away. He's out there somewhere, watching, waiting, perhaps plotting his next move, or perhaps, just perhaps, he's looking back on his life, wondering if it was all worth it. As for the rest of us, we're left to wonder, to speculate, to tell tales of the man who rose from nothing to rule an empire, who cheated death and outran his past. J. Malkoun's legend grows with each retelling, each whispered story in a dimly lit bar. Will Malkoun's luck finally run out? Or will he continue to defy death itself, always staying one step ahead of his enemies? Only time will tell. And time, as they say, is ticking.